Hello, we are back. We are doing day 25 today, right? Is it Mary's entrance into the temple and her offering?
Is it? Oh, I thought it was 24. Hold on. You could.
Entrance into Jerusalem. Maybe it is.
No, let me look. It's on. No, no, it's 24. Yeah, for once, for once I was right, but
Okay.
it's only because I looked on my thing and I just told you 24.
So today we are going to do, oh, I just lost the page.
Sorry.
The entrance into Jerusalem. And these are all from our book club, Be Holy for I Am Holy. And it is the complete vision of Anne Catherine Emmerich. She is a visionary. She was beatified in 2004 by St. John Paul. So her things have all been approved by the church, her visions, and some of them are marvelous, and some of them make you think, because you're like, wow. So
for them to approve her writing, people don't understand how hard it is to become a blessed or a saint. They research. Her writing is like, this is a 1,200 page book. Well, what they do is they spend years doing this, going through with a fine-tooth comb all of these writings, and they say, and this, for the Vatican to say this is huge, they say this is historically correct. And when you hear things, this is a woman that spent her life in her bed. She had no outside internet to look anything up or able to go to the library and figure.
Well, I think at the beginning she was okay for a while, and then she got sick.
But they didn't even have libraries that had like historical facts that she's put in here. So
yeah, she started having visions as a little child.
Right. So it's huge.
And she would share them with people, and people would laugh at her, and so she stopped sharing. She just kept them to herself until she got older, and then she started sharing them to I forgot who it was, and then they said, oh, we need to do something with this, and then they went beyond that. So anyway, today she's going to give us the vision of the entrance into Jerusalem. We are still reading about Mary, Anne, Joachim, and Mary's side of the family, which Mary, Jesus's mother, Mary, because there's a lot of Marys in the Bible.
So yesterday they were journeying towards Jerusalem. They are now entering it.
Yes. I saw the caravan that conducted Mary approaching Jerusalem from the north and winding toward the east around the outlying gardens and palaces of the city. They crossed the valley of Josaphat. They crossed the valley of Josaphat, and leaving the road to Bethania on the left, entered the city by the sheep gate leading to the cattle market. There was a pool here in which the sheep were washed. Thence their way turned to the right and ran between walls to another section of the city. Then they followed a long road through a valley and at last reached the neighborhood of the fish market at the west side of the city. Here stood the house at which Zachary, when engaged in the service of the temple, always put up. Out of this inn came men, women, and children with garlands to meet the caravan and to conduct them in ceremony to the house. About a quarter of an hour distant, at which they were to stop, Zachary was not present, but I saw a very old man there, his father's brother, I think. And among those that came out to welcome Mary were relatives with their children from the country around Hebron and Bethlehem. There was a fine feast prepared for them in the house at which they stopped. The child Mary wore the second festival suit with the little blue mantle. Zachary called her for them in order to take them to the feast inn that he had hired for them. This was an inn which could be hired on festival occasions, like the present. There were 4 such inns on the northern side of the mountain on which stood the temple. That hired by Zachary was very large. 4 halls surrounded a large court along whose walls were sleeping places and long, low tables. A spacious saloon and a kitchen were all prepared for the guests. On 2 sides of this feast inn dwelt some of the servants of the temple, whose duty it was to see to the animals intended for sacrifice. The court wherein was placed the herd that Joachim had brought as an offering lay hard by. 10.
A procession, procession was formed. Zachary was about to lead the travelers into the inn hired for the feast. He himself walked first with Joachim and Anne. Then came Mary, surrounded by 4 little girls in white, and followed by the other children and relatives. Their way led to Herod's palace and past that of the Roman governor, leaving the citadel of Antonia behind. At last they reached a high wall up there, which there was a flight of more than 15 steps. Mary, to the astonishment of all, mounted them without assistance. Her friends wanted to help her, but she refused. It takes me a little minute for my my microphone, so that's why
Oh, okay.
start low and then increase. But their entrance into the inn, their feet were washed. Upon their entrance into the inn, their feet were washed. Then they were shown into a large hall, in the center of which a lamp was suspended from the ceiling over a large metal basin of water. Here they washed their face and hands. Joachim and Anne then went up with Mary to the dwelling of some of the priests. Here, likewise, urged by an interior spirit, the child hurried to mount the steps. The 2 priests cordially received them into the house. Both had been present at Mary's examination in Nazareth. They called one of the women belonging to the temple, where she executed all kinds of works common to females and educated little girls. Her abode was at some distance from the temple, among the added rooms forming the sleeping apartments of the temple virgins. Out of these rooms, one could, unseen, look down into the sanctuary. The widow was so enveloped in her mantle that one could see only a little of her face. The priests and the parents delivered the child Mary over to her as her future pupil. She received her gravely but cordially, while the child was all submission and reverence. The widow, accompanied the party to the feast inn and received a package as the child's dowry. The following day was taken up with preparations for Joachim's sacrifice and for Mary's entrance into the temple. Joachim went early with his offering of cattle to the temple, in front of which the animals for sacrifice were selected. Those not chosen were at once led back to the cattle market. Joachim had to lay his hand upon the head of each animal before it was slaughtered, and he afterward received some of the flesh and blood of each. There were in this place many pillars, tables, and vessels where the sacrifices were cut up, divided, and arranged. The scum of the blood was put aside, the fat, the spleen, and the liver separated, and all parts were salted. The entrails of the lambs were cleaned, filled with something, and again restored, so that the animal, so that it looked like a whole lamb. The feet were bound crosswise. A great portion of the meat was taken to a court in which there were some temple virgins. They seemed to have something to do connected with it. Perhaps they had to prepare it either for themselves or for the priests. All was carried on with indescribable order. The priests and Levites came and went two and two. And during the difficult and multifarious work, all progressed as if by line and level. The pieces prepared for sacrifice lay over till the next day. In the inn was held a feast, and there was also a repast, at which about 100 people assisted along with the children. Among them, 24 girls of different ages. Among others, I saw Seraphia, who was called Veronica after the death of Jesus. She was already well grown, probably from 10 to 12 years old. They prepared garlands and wreaths for Mary and for her companions, and ornamented for them 7 scepter-shaped lamps on which the summit burned a flame. During the feast, many priests and Levites went in and out of the inn, taking part also in the repast. When they expressed surprise at the greatness of Joachim's offering, he bade them recall the ignominy he had endured at the temple when his formal offerings were rejected, and the great mercy of God who had heard his supplications. And he asked them whether he should not now express his gratitude according to the extent of his power. I saw the child Mary and the other girls taking a walk in the neighborhood of the house. Whoops. It went too far. Hold on. Oh no, that was the end. Okay, so yeah, that was the end. So it's a very short reading today, which is fine because Jeanette has an appointment. So first of all, I wanted to say what people don't understand is they go into the sheep's gate and oh, you know what? There is an article. Okay. I put an article up on Facebook if you have a chance to go and look. And it's about the sheep's gate. I put actually 1, 2, 3, 3 different, or actually 4, A, B, C, and D, about the sheep's gate. There is a lot of sorry, him and hawing. They took the animals in the sheep gate that were to be slaughtered. And here, because they're dropping off Mary, I guess they're having some ceremony too, because they need all the food for the ceremony. They lead them through there while the animals are being slaughtered. And the articles are really good because they give you a little bit of context of this kind of a mundane fact, but there is a very
So
hold on. There's a very symbolic thing about the sheep's gate. It's very interesting. We don't have time to get into it. So if you have a chance, go and look at those quick 4 articles, because they'll give you some really good context about it. I didn't get a chance to read them all myself. I wish I had prior. I wish I would have had them up here, but we don't have time. So it's very symbolic. So give it a, give it a whirl. But I did take a quick look at them, and trust me, you want to look at them. Go ahead, Jeanette.
So, to my understanding, then, before they killed any animal, they would offer it to God.
Oh,
So it was kind of like a blessing, like a thank you for this food type of thing. That is now we made it into a prayer before we eat.
right.
And our animals are already killed and everything, but it looks like they would make sure the animals went through. I thought the animals were only used for special ceremonies, but I guess this was part of the ceremony.
It's part
Was
of
that they had to feed all these people, but
And they had to-
before they killed the animal, they did some kind of a ritual to the animal.
right.
So every animal they killed, they did that. That was like big.
Now, if you don't remember, in the Bible, Jesus calls himself a good shepherd, and he calls himself a gate for sheep. That's why it's very important, if you have a chance, to read through these, because one of them says Jesus calls himself a good shepherd and a gate for sheep. Jews, just like numerology was very deep and symbolic. Same thing goes for certain words that are chosen. And if you look at Sheep's Gate, if you look at these about Sheep's Gate, these 4 articles, you're going to get some understanding of the context. Okay. So here they were going through, and think about it. They're following this long road, and there's, people on the sides with the fish market and these booths. And it's just the whole town. It gives them money because outsiders are coming in and bringing money. They're probably buying things. This is a very big event that we're watching here. And then they have a whole group, Mary with all her relatives. And there was a fine feast, it says, prepared for them in the house at which they stopped. So right as they're getting into Jerusalem, there's a house, and it's probably full of women like Mary and all the followers of Jesus, and they're preparing meals for people, right? This was, of course, before Jesus even was born. But the second child, Mary, wore the second festival suit with the little blue mantle. Jeanette, she's wearing her little blue mantle as a little girl. This was something, this is
so cute.
Yeah, and it's symbolic of her. So
her little blue mantle.
So symbols are very important, not only to Jews, but also to Christians, especially, the blue mantle. Everyone knows Mary's always in blue.
Yeah, I have all these beautiful, blue mantles everywhere. Love it.
They that hired by Zachary were very large. The 4 halls, sleeping there, whose walls were sleeping places, and long low tables. Yeah, the blue
mantle, and here she's pregnant with Jesus.
Oh, that's pretty. Where did you get that one?
Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah, did you get that?
Her blue mantle, but this one I got at Amazon. Amazon has it. You just have to put pregnant Mary. And then this one is the 7 sorrows of Mary.
Yeah.
The piercing heart, and she has her blue mantle.
Elizabeth wanted a pregnant one, and I have it, but she won't take it. But I like that one better.
And that's Guadalupe with all of her beautiful stars on her blue mantle, which we're going to do the consecration to that one of these days, guys.
And that blue is like more of a teal blue, if you notice.
Yes.
Yeah. But listen, and there's another blue.
Because I mean, it probably won't last her whole life, but she always had a blue mantle.
Yeah.
I'm sure she had to get several, you know.
I have a bunch of Marys I'll show tomorrow. I don't want to run around and collect them. They're all
no. You were talking, so I thought I'd just grab her.
Yeah, but you have things nearby. Mine are all over my little place here. Okay, so here they are. They have little walls where they have these low tables. They have walls right there for sleeping. So, this is like a several days preparation and then the ceremony. So people have to sleep, and not everyone can afford to go in inns. Apparently, Mary's family could afford some inns, but not all of them could. So there were sleeping places along with long low tables. So a spacious saloon and kitchen were also prepared for the guests. So I guess they could, make food and all that. There weren't, McDonald's down the street. They had to do all this preparation. They didn't have refrigeration back then. They had all kinds of ways to keep things fresh. Which is why they also had to slaughter animals constantly, because they had, we go to the supermarket and fish is lined up for us in refrigerators, so it keeps for some time. Wasn't like that. They had to do everything fresh.
And every time they slaughtered an animal, they had to go through all that process. Oh my goodness.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so it was a very common thing, though. So many people had the skills.
Very gross. I'm a vegetarian, so those parts are not my favorite.
At least you're a vegetarian. I'm the hypocrite here. I eat steak, I used to eat it every day. Now I eat it more on weekends. But in any case, so here's certain people are their duty is to see the animals intended for sacrifice. So I just think that this is interesting. It really paints the picture. And then what was here? Their way to Herod's palace past the Roman governor, leaving the citadel of Antonia. So here they are. Their way led to Herod's palace. They're passing a palace as they're going here. These were like, it's just so interesting. And then Mary, to the astonishment of all, mounted them without assistance up this flight of 15 steps. Remember, she's a little tiny girl, 3 years old, and here she is just going up the steps like a 6-year-old. So her friends.
Maybe she was a little older. Maybe she was a little older than 3, because from one vision to the next, sometime I'm sure passed.
A little older. She might have been like 4 by then, and my 4-year-old could probably go up steps. Yeah. Her friends wanted to help her, but she refused. She was an independent little girl. Upon their entrance, their feet were washed. So as they're coming into the Sheep's Gate, they wash their feet, because remember, it's not like we know now about cleaning hands and germs, but they know when they come in here, these sheep are coming in and they are used for this ritual, but it's sort of like the sacred ground type thing. They're getting ready to come in to see God. So what are, they're worshiping. So what do? They respect the space. And they bring these animals in that are also going to
they wore sandals and they traveled so long. And
right.
In those days, that's what you normally do before you enter anywhere, is that you clean you wash your own feet, or if somebody's there to like be your host, they might even wash your feet, Right.
Mm-hmm.
That's just something you did. You washed your feet and you probably washed your hands.
So it's for cleanliness, but it's also for the ritual, the sacred, the respect and the reverence. Okay, which more people need to do in Mass, that are sitting there blabbing with each other. We are not there for a social thing. People think, oh, church is social like Protestant churches. No, No, you are to be there, and I'm not saying you can't talk to people, but talk to them. And before you walk in the narthex, talk to them before, even if it's before Mass, you're supposed to be preparing your heart to take the body of Christ. It's a very sacred thing. And that, to me, we've lost our sacredness in this country. I don't know what it's like in other countries because I haven't been out of the US. But I think I went to Canada once, but I was a kid. I don't even remember. But in any case, so we have to get our reverence back. And to me, yes, it's a cleanliness thing, but I also think it's a reverence thing. The Sheep's Gate, read these articles, it'll kind of give you some context. So Mary, to the astonished, I'm going to read them tomorrow, and I'm going to say something because I'm so upset with myself I didn't have this prepared. Her friends wanted to help her. She refused. They went in to show a long hall, the center which the lamp was suspended from the ceiling over a large metal basin of water. Here they washed their hands and feet. So I kind of was picturing this in my mind. And I see a lot of stone and pillars because that's what they did back then. I don't know how they did all that work, but, without machinery, but they did. So Anne, they went up with Mary, the dwelling of some of the priests. So as we're going through this, I'm like, trying to see these priests meeting them. So when we're going through this, we have to kind of visualize. It's not like we're lazy and we can watch TV where the visualization is put up for us. We have to see this, we have to see this in our mind's eye, which is good for us. So I thought this was important. Her abode was some distance from the temple, among added some rooms forming sleeping apartments of the temple virgins. So it's sort of like, when you take your kids to college and you're dropping them off and that's their dorms, sort of like dorms. And I don't know, visualizing that kind of thing. Out of these rooms, one could be unseen. The widow was enveloped in her mantle that no one could see, only a little of her face. Again, it's about respect. Again, it's about reverence to the body, which we're terrible about that today. So the priest and the parents delivered the child over to, I guess, the teacher, or the, how a nunnery has the mother nun, and a school has the dean, whatever. So they deliver her over to her, this little girl. I mean, I don't even know how people did that and leave their little kids with people, but I had a hard time leaving my kids with babysitters. But anyway, she received her gravely. I don't really understand why they say this, her gravely. I don't know if it's a different context back then, but we see it as a sad thing. I don't know. Or maybe she's like, oh no, I have another kid to take care of. I don't know. But if you notice, she received the package as the child's dowry. That was their payment. Because back then women didn't work, but here she is a little child. So she's not going to be, she's working and learning, but it's like you have to pay for school. That the learning she's doing is for future skills. It's not for that moment. So these are people putting their whole lifetimes in to take care of all these girls. They need to be paid because they have their families to take care of. So it's sort of like, that's kind of what I'm seeing.
It's kind of like a boarding school,
right,
nowadays, but it was like they were
Boarding
like 3
school.
and a half, and
Yeah.
it was, I guess, to prepare them to be holy women, because these are from it. It was Mary's group of was it Assyrians?
Yeah.
Assyrians. I never heard of this until reading this book, that she came from this special not community, but special, what's the word I'm looking for? Special part of that era, and a special part of special people that have been extremely raised to be extremely devout, holy people.
Mhm.
because I mean, even when they were married, some of them lived in different houses even. You
So
know,
the
if you guys go back to our first videos, you don't have to really listen to these videos in order if you don't want to either. But if you go back, you can see where she came from and how devout they were. My goodness.
Well, it was customary in marriage that they were considered married, but they had not had sex yet. They still lived in their parents' homes up to a year before they actually
Oh
began
yeah, this was that. Yeah.
before they began cohabitating. Anyway, we're not to Mary's part in that. But
Yeah.
if you look, so they hand her over to the teachers, and then the next day they're taken up with the preparations for Joachim's sacrifice and for Mary's entrance into the temple. So the only thing I could think with Joachim's sacrifice is his animals that he's giving over, I guess. And then for Mary's entrance into the temple. So this is the school before, for the temple, but before they get there. So I'm just picturing all this.
So I see now that Mary was very well prepared
Oh, yes. This was
to enter into what God asked her to do. She was extremely prepared from a very young age. She knew what it entailed to be devout, to be holy, and to say yes to God. She absolutely understood it 100%.
and she was reverenced that way. Now there were other temple virgins, and they all were.
Oh yes, of course.
So
and then the mother also, the mother and the father, knowing her role in the whole community, knowing her role.
I don't know that they know that their child's going to bear God.
No, but something special. They
knew it. She was special.
They knew, but yet they stayed very humble.
Exactly.
You know, they had a little bit of money, but yet they were very humble. Yet they gave to everybody first, and then they took at the end for themselves. I've noticed that, and that's just like wow.
Yeah.
And also another thing that kind of hit my heart is not this reading, but the one yesterday. The father, his grief and his agony, and then when he said that this will be the last time he sees her.
Right.
So I think he dies or something, or he knew that he wouldn't see her again or something.
No.
Why did he say that that's the last time he saw her?
No, she got the blessing, and he knows he's going to have to give her over, like what's happening now. He knows it's coming soon, and he knows she's set aside for a
Oh, okay. So that's why he was so sad.
So he was so sad, because just like when your kids are going to college and you have to say goodbye, you're sad.
Oh, empty nesting, yeah.
Yeah, you're sad before you get that. You're like, they're going to be leaving in 6 months, and you're like appreciating every moment, and you love them so much. It's that time. So here, I was going to say something when you were talking. I'm trying to remember now. Oh, it was a cultural thing back then. I was going to talk about, darn it, I can't remember now. It flew out of my head.
See, you tell me, Jeanette, you got to talk more, but when I do, then you forget what you're going to say.
I know.
So that's why I don't talk a lot, because you pretty much cover it all.
Yeah, sorry. But anyway, so basically they're getting ready for this market. This is all very like you said, prepared. Their culture, they are this is something very common to them, just like us with colleges. This is the way they did things back then. So then they're in this place, and there's blood and scum and all this gross stuff. But this is normal to them, because this is the way they do things. So, and I don't know why they would put the lambs and clean them and then make them look like a whole lamb. I don't get that. But whatever, that's something important to presentation for some.
I guess so. It's not that bloody when they go back in there.
I think
it's not so bloody and gory, if all the stuff is already in there.
More of a symbolic thing. They want, when you,
because everything goes to a certain spot.
When you make the table look pretty, I think it's part of the presentation. They want to make
Yeah.
it look nice, you know.
Also, I think it was something that you can't, I think it was something that you can't eat the blood or something. It needs to be separate because the blood is life. And
Yeah,
you can't eat that for some reason, the blood, and
yeah.
the fat was
That's why
separate.
when
Everything was
Jesus,
separate.
yeah, because that's why when Jesus said, "This is the blood of the covenant," they're all like, "You want me to drink your blood? What are you, nuts?" And then he lost a lot of followers. Then that's why the Protestants have it wrong. They are like the people that left him. They say, "Oh, we like his message, but we don't like what he said about the blood." No, you need to drink the blood, and that's what we do when we go to mass, when we do the wine, which is transubstantiation. When the priest holds it up, transubstantiation takes place, and that becomes the precious blood of Christ. That's
But some people don't like to do the to
I
drink the
don't
blood,
I
which
don't
is fine because
because
even though you're not drinking it, it's included in the
the
body of
body
blood in the
is
body. So
it's
you're good, guys.
100%. You don't need both, but I'm weird, even though it's alcohol and it kills all the germs. I'm a nurse, and I am not going to drink from a cup that of 50 people. I never even drank after my own children. That, some people will drink after their family members. No, I believe it or not, though, I would drink after my husband's a little bit, minimal though. Very
Yeah, I like to be in the front row. That's why.
There you go.
Because I'm one of the first. You still have a couple of people, but you're
Yeah.
one of the first.
Yeah. But I'm not one that shares food. It just I'm weird about that. But anyway, so some people don't for that reason, but it doesn't matter. Like Jeanette says, body and blood, they're both 100%
In the Eucharist.
Christ. Yeah. You don't need one for the other, because even though the priest puts what he does is symbolically joins when he puts a little bit of the host in, and then he drinks. What he's doing is combining that, and there's a whole symbolic thing, and now I forget it, but it makes it all one, so you're good. So here they are in indescribable order. This is very normal. 2 by 2, just like the kids showing up for college. They have their orientation, and everyone knows what everyone's doing, very orderly. So we could see that. The inn was held a feast, so it's like the dinner before the orientation. Everyone, all the parents, they're going to have a dinner before, same thing. So it says 100 people assisted along with the children, among them 24 girls of different ages. So different families are getting their children, their daughters, prepared to be temple virgins. And they're all different ages. Like Mary's family had money, and she was meant to be started sooner. Some of them maybe had to save up for a couple of years to be able to afford these dowries. So some of them were different ages. So here we are at the end here. Seraphia, who was called Veronica after the death of Jesus, she was already well grown, probably 10 to 12 years. That's what they call well grown. So I'm like, wow, they prepared
10 to 12 years, well grown. Wow. Yeah.
They prepared garlands and wreaths for Mary and her companions. They know they're not going to see their these are okay. I don't know if these are her family members. I guess they get together and all the kids make the garlands for her. It's sort of part of the dinner, I guess. And they're like, "Oh, we're not going to see her. Oh, let's make her these beautiful wreaths." This is like a goodbye party, how you put up party favors. And so it's kind of like party favors. They didn't have Party City back then, people. So here they are, and look what they're putting up, and it's all very symbolic. They ornamented for them. That's what that's all about. And then 7 scepter-shaped lamps whose summit burned a flame.
Number 7 again, huh?
And what is the symbol of the flame? It is change. It is igniting a new change in their lives. So just like we have, the candle has very much a meaning in the, we just got a new candle in our parish. It's much taller and all that. They talked about it in one of the homilies. But in any case, here they have this these 7 scepter shaped lamps whose summit burned a flame. These aren't electric lamps, people. They didn't have electric. Their lighting are flames, but it's still symbolic. It's still light. So when they expressed surprise at the greatness of Joachim's offering, he bade them to recall the ignominy he endured at the temple when his former offerings were rejected, and a great mercy of God who heard his supplication. He asked whether he or now should express gratitude during the extent of his power. I really don't know exactly what they're saying here. They're surprised at the greatness of his offering. I don't know. Does that mean all the things that he brought? I don't know. So I'm a little, you might want to,
Yeah, remember he put on his saddles all these gifts and things he was bringing, and he actually, yesterday they explained that they actually put it all in like a broad thing, and they make the broad so that they can put it on top of the, I don't know, horse or donkey or whatever it was, or mules or asses, whatever they called them. And then they would sit on them. They would sit on them to make it comfortable for their, and I'm like, that's really smart to put your clothes a certain way and your stuff so that you can use it as a cushion. Yeah. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Right? They didn't have excess like we have excess. They had to use things for 2 and 3 reasons they would use things. So I don't know, but I'm guessing it's something like what Jeanette's talking about. But then he asked whether he should not now express his gratitude. He's handing his daughter over, yet he's expressing gratitude to the teachers, to the priests, to all of them that are taking her. And they are just about to hand her over. And he's saying thank you. And remember, he was so deeply grieved as Jeanette. So he's been preparing his heart, preparing the dowry. This was his part of the job. She's taking care of her every day. Dad is putting things together, and she's probably helping too, but he's like the leader. And it's just, I can see all this.
What a sacrifice and the love for God, for Joachim to do something like that.
Yeah, and then
Joachim, I can never pronounce it.
Joachim. I don't know if it's Joachim or Joachim. So
I don't know.
We say it 2 different ways. It's good. You can figure out which way works for you. You could ponder that too. So here he is saying, well, do I say thank you now? Like everything is very formal back then. Like we would just say, oh, thank you so much. And we would go into all this very informal, especially me, I'm blabbing, but they weren't, they were very, by the way, I was not a big mouth as much when I was younger because I didn't know so much and I didn't have so much to say.
Yeah, me neither. I never talked. I was shy, never had any friends, nothing, guys.
I was a little socially retarded. But anyway, I saw the child Mary and the other girls taking a walk in the neighborhood of the house. This is the house where she's going to leave. So as her parents are handing this over and preparing this, she's walking away with the girls who she's going to live with in her dorm, boarding house, whatever we want to say. So I thought this was a very, a thing where you're going to take your daughter off to college and, but it's preschool, and it's like handing them over to this, kindergarten.
It kind of reminds me of like a monastery, like like monks, but women, like sisters,
right?
Like places where sisters now would go and.
Yeah. But let me just, since we have another minute here, let me just look real quick at one of these articles I thought was real good. Oh, one of them says the Eastern Gate. So the only reason I put this one in too is I'm not sure if the Sheep's Gate is the Eastern Gate, but it talks about a little bit about symbol.
Well, also in the New Testament, you have a lot of things that they talk about the gatekeepers too. Don't
Right.
confuse the both, guys. One's a gatekeeper and one's the, what did you say?
Gate.
What's the other gate that we're talking about?
Eastern.
The Eastern Gate, and then the other gate that you said.
The Sheep's Gate.
Yeah, the
So
sheep.
it says the Eastern Gate was the closest entrance and exit to the temple site. So that might be the Sheep's Gate. I'm not sure. It says, when looking at the gate, the southern portion of the gate became known as the Gate of Mercy, while the northern portion of the gate became known as the Gate of Repentance. You see, it's all symbolic. So I don't know where that fits in, which one is the sacrifice. I'm guessing it's the repentance one, because when you do the sacrifice, it's it's for that reason. It says this is a powerful symbolism steeped into the historical approach through the gate, tied to the mystery of the angel intercepting and stopping Abraham's sacrifice. So see, this all has to do back with Abraham, which is what we are now about 1,000 to 1,500 years later, but it still carries that symbolism. So just like with our Christian traditions, our Catholic traditions, all come from way back, even like that St. Joseph prayer that's 1,900 years old. They found in the apocryphal writings an actual prayer in the year 50 that, like, Joseph had been dead maybe not even 100 years at that point. So here they already had a St. Joseph prayer. So I think that that's very very important. So that little part talks about the enter. It says, now later on with Jesus, it says the purpose was to prevent the Jewish Messiah from being able to enter through this gate. So the Israelite tradition holds the Messiah will one day enter the city through the Eastern Gate. Strangely, this is why the Muslims, when they held control of Jerusalem, sealed the gate. Their purpose was to prevent the Jewish Messiah from being able to enter through this gate. Remember, Satan will use hatred to divide us so that we will try to interfere in God's plan. It's not going to work. The Muslims can try until the cows come home. But the point is they will, perfect analogy with that, right? But the point is they will never stop God's plan. But the devil doesn't stop trying. Just like that nefarious. My grandson's taking his sister to see it today at 4:30. So I'm like, so the thing is that you have to recognize that this everything they're doing is very symbolic. It's not just, oh, here's the gate to the college. No, this is partly mundane stuff, but partly extremely symbolic. So when he brought me back to the outer gate of the sanctuary facing east, but it was closed, the Lord said to me, the gate must remain closed. It must not be open, and no one should come through it, because the Lord and the God of Israel came through it. It must remain closed. Only the prince may sit and eat a meal in the presence of the Lord. He must enter through the vestibule of the gate and leave the same way. So there's a certain gate that they don't just use as today the mundane stuff. So I just think that this was a little bit interesting. So this is one of the articles I included because it had the symbolism of it. And that one was I don't know which one that was. That one was D. Okay. Right? That one was D. Yeah, or no, that one was a different one. It wasn't D. This one is D. Okay. Jeanette, stop me when we don't have enough time. Okay. So here, this is talking about the gate is near. It says Christ encounters a multitude of invalids at a large pool located by the Sheep's Gate. So we know that there's a pool, what's it called? The Bethesda pool. It says, it's believed angels would periodically stir the waters, allowing the sick to be healed when they wash. Remember the invalid?
Yeah, the Fespid. Yeah.
Yeah, they had to put him.
And the angel, who was the angel that did that? Saint Michael. Angel Michael.
Oh, okay.
That was the archangel that did that. Remember that movie we saw
And
about
this,
Michael?
yeah,
That was him.
yeah. And
He was
this,
the one with the pool. He was the one doing that.
yeah. It says, without any test of faith, Christ tells the man, rise, take up your pallet and walk. That's near the pool that someday Mary, who, you know, is entering in, that's the Sheep's Gate, and it's got the pool is right next to it. She's going into a place that her son will someday. So this is all very like, this is a very small, you know, world. Like, it's a small world after all. This literally was a very small world. So so that was saying that about the Sheep's Gate. Okay, that was in, this one is in D. Okay. Okay, and Jesus calls himself the gate. He calls himself the Sheep's Gate, not just the gate, the Sheep's Gate. And now you understand why. It says, and then of course this article brings up the parable of the lost sheep to explain repentance, not righteousness. You see, that's what it's all about.
You can add that link to the bottom of the thing so people can look at it.
I did yesterday.
Oh, okay, good.
Now I will add it again today, the same one. So here's where it talks about the Eastern Gate.
Okay.
This one, the Eastern Gate, it says, on the third day, Abraham caught sight of the place from a distance. Abraham said to his servant, stay here with the donkey while I go while the boy and I go over here. We will worship and then come back to you. So Abraham took the wood for burnt offering, laid it on his son Isaac, carried the knife. Oh, okay. This isn't the Sheep's Gate. I'm sorry. This is about the sheep though. Yeah, so this is the burnt offering. And this is the one, okay, this is the article that talks about the closest entrance to the exit. That was the first article I was talking about, and that was B as in boy. Now here's where Jesus says, I am the gate. He says, the pools of Bethesda, Jerusalem. It says this, the scene of one of Jesus's miracles was the healing of the paralyzed man. The location of the pools of Bethesda, actually a series of reservoirs and medicinal pools, is in the Muslim quarter of Jerusalem's old city. You see, they don't like it because that just like the devil doesn't like these places where Jesus, it's so important. It says, north of the temple, the mount, and 50 meters inside St. Stephen's or Lion's Gate. There's another gate. You see, they have about, I don't know, 6 different ones, because this is where the sheep were brought to the temple. So look, this is telling us now what we've been talking about is the Lion's Gate. So at the time, the Lion's Gate, all this time we're talking about the Sheep's Gate, it's also the Lion's Gate, the sheep and the lion. That makes sense. Okay. So, oh darn it, I lost. Okay, no, here it is. So according to ancient tradition, Bethesda is also where Jesus's maternal grandparents Anne and Joachim lived, and where his mother Mary was born. So I don't know why they had to journey and all that to here, because this says this is not too far from there. But remember, the church checked all of her writings out and it was historically correct. So a journey back then, maybe this was 15 minutes by car, but maybe this is quite a ways.
About a year or something.
No, I don't think that long, but it says the compound containing the pools and the church is owned by the French government and administered by the White fathers. It also contains a museum and Greek Catholic seminary. So eventually this all becomes, what they hold now. It says, and then it goes into some evidence of things, and then it says, but early church was built over the pool. The Byzantine Empress Theodosia had enormous basilica constructed over the pools of Bethesda in the 5th century. So 50 years or 100 years, 500 years after Christ, and this was all special sacred ground. This one woman claims it, and the empress, and builds a church over it, and the church was called Mary, where she was born. Its central aisle covered the central rock wall, the sides and islands, the 2 basins, the front part, all considered a site of ancient healing sanctuary. Then the basilica was destroyed 100 years later, and the Crusaders built a small chapel, the church where the paralytic, over the part of the ruined basilica. The facade, main entrance, and apse of the Crusader chapel can be seen standing. The practice of building one.
So guys, you don't have to read the article. She just read it.
No, but listen, right at the end here, the example of a practice of building one church over another. And then there's a little link here called the Church of Anne. So you can go and click on that link. And I think that's in A.
Oh, there is a beautiful church called St. Anne over in DeLand, guys. You got to go check it out. If not, just to go to the gift shop. Their gift shop is amazing. They have
to go there.
Most awesome statues, icons of the saints and everything. Very reasonable, like $10-14, and normally you get these for like $30. They're expensive normally, but yeah, very reasonable. And they have the best gift shop, very reasonably priced too. So you got to go check it out.
So here, Mary's entrance is tomorrow, or hopefully we do book club tomorrow. We have to decide day to day. We say we are. And
well, if we can do it in an hour, we can do it now, but it has to be in an hour.
No. Oh, we have another hour. Well, that will. Okay.
Yeah, if we.
Well, let's look at it. So anyway, guys.
Okay.
This is it for today. Tomorrow we do Mary's entrance. Even if we tape it today, you're not going to see it until tomorrow. So, okay.
Tomorrow's a busy day for me. I got my daughter's birthday party.
Yeah. And then, is it her birthday tomorrow?
No, it's in May 5th, but she's celebrating it tomorrow because I think she's going on vacation or something.
Oh, okay.
It just fits better in her schedule because she's a nurse.
Yeah.
And it's really hard.
Yeah, today there's just not enough nurses, especially now because of the pandemic. It really messed everything up. Nursing schools still won't let their students. That's one of the reasons why Elizabeth's because they won't even let me. She finished all her prerequisites. So anyway, I know. Goodbye. So
bye, guys. We'll see you later.
We will see you on the next one.